Let's go for the actual score. Europa Natural
Greetings, humanity, and welcome to Europa Natural Law, a roundtable transmission dedicated to healing the madness, badness, and sadness plaguing our beautiful, bountiful world. Through regaining our sanity, reclaiming our inborn sovereignty, and honoring our inherent responsibility, we can improve reality. I'm Nemo Jones, reporting for Beauty from Devonshire, Albion, where I write, speak, cook and sing for freedom, reason, and beauty. You can find all my links at nemojones.com. And apologies for the lateness today. It's entirely my fault. I hope no one's been put out too much, but let's move on from that and get into introducing everyone. So who do we have here? Let me get the screen up. Yeah, so would you like to introduce yourselves? Jeffrey.
My name is Jeffrey Phillips.
Cool. Short and sweet.
I think Derek's muted.
Derek?
Muted.
Not hearing you.
Oh, tell him to, Derek, back out of Telegram. You're probably still hooked into Telegram. You have to actually exit out.
It's saying that I can't unmute you because you chose to mute yourself. Oh, there you go. You there now?
No.
Yes, you are.
My name's Derek. I run Awaken Your Mind.
No, Derek, we just heard you, bro. But now it's gone again.
No, that was me.
Oh, okay. No.
I was speaking for him.
Anyway, let's carry on. We've got Drea here. Drea, would you like to introduce yourself?
I am unmuted. Hi, I'm Drea, Dr. Drea, not medical doctor. I'm down here in Devonshire, Albion also, and I'm on the other side of the Nemo Jones World Tour. And, it's been amazing. What can I say?
Yes, shameless little plug there for me. I've just been, just on a little tour, which is great. But anyway, with the subject for today is right action. So this is obviously a concept. Can the people everyone mute themselves, please? This is a concept that you, if you're familiar with, it will be probably through Buddhism, I'm guessing. I think that's kind of certainly where I kind of came across this phrase, right action. But obviously here we're Europa Natural Law. We're talking about it from a natural law perspective, which, as I've talked about before, completely aligns with Buddhism anyway, in my view. Or Buddhism aligns with natural law, or at least a lot of it does, and some of it doesn't. But that's a different story. But we're talking about right action, meaning what is the best course of action in any given situation? What is actually the highest action, the thing that will achieve the highest, that will manifest the highest value? That's how I think of it. And as we've discussed before, we're in this age of delusion. It can be very, very difficult to discern what is the right course of action. And especially when you're surrounded by voices saying, these sort of dichotomies that we're surrounded by, people sort of fighting over things that are actually perhaps not the highest thing. Basically, For example, I'm talking about fighting about in what way the state should dominate us. That's a thing that's seems to take up a lot of energy, a hell of a lot of energy for people. And well-meaning people get very involved in this debate. What should the state do? What should be how should the state steal money? What should they do? How should they provide this or that or the other? This is an example of like the way that people are distracted from thinking about actual right action in a real down-to-earth way. What do you do? What are you doing now? And what is actually right or wrong in the bigger picture, and seeking to align ourselves with that. Yes, so that's a little introduction for me. I can say more, and I'm going to come back to a little graphic that I did in my What is Natural Law essay series, and which is relevant to this, so I'll bring that up in a little bit. But for now, I'll pass that on, so whoever wants to jump in. And Derek, have we got you? Looks like not. Do you? Oh yeah. I don't know.
No.
Can you not sign out and in or something? Okay, we'll keep going.
Okay, I've got something to say while we get Derek online, which I really hope we do manage to get Derek online. You're going to come with us, Derek, my love. So right action. So we live in a polarized world. We live in a utterly polarized world. And so often the choice is, do I act with love? Do I act with fear? What's my motivation, my choice? Am I acting for my own self, or am I acting for the good of others? And I think for me, I've been doing a practice of what I call love quite a long time now, which is kind of an understanding around.
Sorry, Jared, I missed part of that. I don't know if you dropped out, but what did you call it?
Loving selfishness.
Oh yeah.
Loving selfishness, where it's kind of, unless our self, who we are, is that we've done the work on our shadow, that we've made sure that we're not dehydrated, or we're not hungry, or that we don't need to go to the loo, or some other thing, like take care of your own bodily needs first and foremost, then take care of your own mental and emotional space, and then and only then can you really go out and take care of the external. It's like one of my mentors says, I'll take care of me for you if you'll take care of you for me. And it's like taking that personal responsibility around our own well-being before we try and change anything on the outside of ourselves. So for me, right action is about taking care of myself first and reflecting on how I'm turning up, and only when I've actually got something that I can actually truly offer from a place of fullness, not I need to do this because actually it's going to fill a hole that's lacking in me. If I do that, it'll give me a sense of something. So I just think that right action for me is choosing love over fear, and doing what resonates with my heart. And that's my starting point for this conversation.
Check.
Get them.
So, radical honesty and radical authenticity is really necessary in order to do the internal shadow work to differentiate new age bullshit from natural law, and right and wrong. It's kind of like, if you're not constantly looking at the harm that you're doing to the world in every step of your day, it's kind of like a cop walking around not thinking about the Constitution all the time, and it's like, if they're not doing that, they're obviously going to be off breaking the law and violating people's rights if they're not constantly being like, oh, is this constitutional that I'm doing right now? So it's completely necessary, to do this internal work all day long. And, I don't mean to be a broken record coming up here talking about shadow work all the time. But it's super important. And having common sense and understanding the trivium, like all these things are really important to figuring out what in our lives is bullshit and what's real. Like even in our circles, there's a lot of people right now, there are a lot of new age bullshit being forced into the freedom movement and the natural law movement. And people just kind of, if you're not using the trivium, you're not going to be able to differentiate those two things, and you're going to be led astray. There are people telling us that aliens are going to come save us, and the government's keeping us from the aliens. And there's people telling us that we need to be plugged into Chinese machines to be healthy. And there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on. People saying veganism is against natural law. In natural law groups, and no one says anything. So it's like complacency also is really something you need to worry about, because it's easy just to be like, oh, I do, like me, like I do a podcast every week and just not even think that I need to do anything else, and it's just like easy to get complacent and not actually be working towards being a better human to the world and to yourself. It's a constant everyday struggle, just like agorism is, not being responsible for supplying the satanic government with financial means to do terrible things with it. It's something that we all have to one day decide to do and start implementing every day.
Can I just ask you to elaborate on agorism, because I think you, possibly Ali, referenced it maybe a show or two back, and it's just something that we haven't really touched on. I'm not really that knowledgeable about it, so
agorism is the fine art of getting the government out of your life and stopping supporting the government, okay. With money and material, and the more you involve yourself with the government, the less free you are. And a lot of people just bend over and take it. So that is the big first big epiphany most truthers have is, okay, the government is bad, admitting that there's something wrong out there. Then the next step should be, okay, because the government's bad and I've been brainwashed by the government, I might have a lot of dark energy in me too. And a lot of stuff, you have to make the decision to question everything you've been taught in your life, because it likely, was taught to you in order to control you, and in order for you to feel like you need to control others. They don't teach us the greatest stuff in school. They don't teach us how to get along, how to talk to each other, how to communicate. They teach us to compete for money, which is an unfortunate byproduct of the capitalist system. But agorism is how you do less harm through not supplying the government with material support, basically.
Those are right actions, huh? And to really be acting within the framework of rights action, we have to understand what a right is, correct behavior, anyone? And just understanding what our rights are as human beings, every single individual, that's the same thing. That is the natural law common ground that we should all be standing upon and respecting. And but yeah, obviously, Jeffrey mentioned in school we're not necessarily taught these things, and you see scuffles on the play yards on a daily basis, and you see kids getting in trouble for acting with right action, but it looks like they're causing harm to someone just because they were caught in the act of defending themselves, you know? So that is something that I noticed, you know, understanding these, you know, principles more and more, is that it's just like so blatant that, you know, the youth is conditioned to hesitate to defend themselves because they might get in trouble, type of thing, you know? And that's fucked up, right? That's kind of castrating the sacred masculine principle of self-defense, right? So, and wow, like what do we have today? Snowflake City or whatever the fuck people want to call it. People can throw out whatever semantics to that. I don't give a fuck, you know, and I don't really care. I'm not like sitting back and pointing the finger and making a fuck ton of memes about it. Like, I don't care, you know, and like, is it a right action from the right wing side to be laughing at and like drinking leftist tears all the time? Like, what the fuck do you think that's going to do? Like, wow, like, is your jokey joke stuff all good with the wokey woke brokey broke stuff? You know what I mean? Like, y'all are still perpetuating the divide and conquer fucking bullshit. And that's not necessarily living in right action. And it's not necessarily right to be judging people that are trying to move towards a vegan diet and just trying to take themselves out of the equation of the immense amount of suffering there is in the world, whether it be with humans or animals. And people want to throw out like, oh, you're just going over the NWO diet and like Agenda 2030. Oh, motherfucker, we've known about this shit for fucking ages before even, you know, like the Agenda 20, you know, this stuff. Like, we know what is like good, proper vegan food, and like folks that are more aligned to natural law and have been like doing proper research and doing the proper self-care, and that initial self-care, as Drea was talking about, that would lead to that proper, the proper service to self first and foremost, so that they can have the cultivation to have that service to others and service to truth, right? So yeah, like if you're vegetarian or vegan, juice, you know, you got to get all those, you know, nutrients, and that helps out a lot. So anyways, let's steer it back to what Neil was talking about with that what is the eightfold path of enlightenment, or whatever, the Buddha wheel, right? And you know, there's right thought, right speech, right intention, right action, right, and all these rights. Right on, man. It's so fucking righteous, you know. And that's the right way to just learn these things, and even have like a poster on your wall, like, oh yeah, all these things, like check them out on a daily basis, type of thing. You know, we've all fucked up, we've all made mistakes, we've all been in the wrong, we've all caused harm, whether it be just, you know, on an emotional level or physical level, or whatever, right? Anyone played sports and injured someone? I have. And so, like, yeah, these things are going to come up a lot of times, and like, you know, well, let's just get the foundation, and we can kind of get into some possible gray area scenarios where people aren't quite sure of like, oh, is this a right action? Is it causing someone harm? And all these things. And like, people aren't quite sure and might be on the fence of what is still in alignment with self-defense and what isn't, and what is, you know, how, and you cross that threshold of violating the other person's rights or whatever. So yeah, there's things to consider, and having the ability to respond properly, that responsibility, and yeah, having the proper conscious agility to maneuver through this matrix miasma and Gordian knot of the clusterfuck of consciousness, as I like to call it sometimes. But here we are, trying to do right. So yeah, anyways.
Yeah, and I think you know, this is a thing that's a sort of sticking point, I think, for a lot of people, where it's like a thought form that people have in response to something like, for instance, this, what we're doing here is this kind of response of like, well, you're just talking, you know, what, it's just all talk, where's the action? And so this is why I really like to emphasize this point to people, from my point of view, is that in a deluded age, there is the only right course of action. Ultimately, the highest form of action, let me say the highest form of right action is speech. It consists of speech, of speaking truth. And that's all you can actually do. Well, it's all you can do that's actually going to shift the age, and it's also the best thing to do. Everything else does not shift consciousness, in the same way. I mean, it can, yes, you can shift consciousness in the way that you live, in the way that you, the energy that you bring, the music, all of this kind of stuff. But really, unless we're able to understand reality together, then we're not going to get anywhere. We need to have a firm understanding of what this reality actually is. Then we can act in accord with that, in unison, not necessarily in unison, but with on a shared basis. And that's the problem at the moment, is that everyone has different bases of understanding reality and interacting with it. So I'm just going to bring in this. Not sure how this is going to work exactly. Yeah, there you go. I'll go full screen. So this is something that I came up with, and I haven't quite seen this put out this way anywhere else. So because it's so obviously on the nose on the subject, I thought I'd just talk through it, because I'm quite happy with this. I made this thing. Oh, I'm just realizing this actually I have got a slightly updated version, but this will do fine. So as it says at the bottom, just in case, because people have responded to this quite negatively because it's got the feminine and masculine. This is not a description of societal roles. That's not what I mean. That's not what is meant by feminine and masculine. Feminine and masculine are aspects of the individual. They're also aspects of reality. So there's, an outgoing aspect and there's an inward aspect. That's basically what it means. So this would apply to any individual can look at this and say, right, for example, let's start with the lower realm, because this is what I consider, this is where, let's say, the kind of libertarian kind of, aspect of the freedom movement, whatever, I would say they don't necessarily reach to the higher realm. There are people that understand the lower realm quite well, what I'm calling here the lower realm, but they don't see the importance of the higher realm. So I'm going to do this quite quickly, but just go over just break this down. And it's amazing to me how clear. That's why I made this chart, because I was trying to write about this stuff and it was really complicated to write it out in sentences. Then I thought I'd make this graph, and I was like, bloody hell, how can it be that everything has this very, very clear,
Balance.
sort of polarity. Yeah. You've got on the feminine side, do no harm. And on the masculine side, take no shit. Like, can that be simpler, And they're so obviously like echoes of or mirrors of each other, and they're good for each other, they're like two sides of the same coin. And then we have going down the non-aggression principle as a feminine aspect, and then the self-defense principle as masculine. So it's really the same thing. These are all different expressions of the same thing, really. Do no harm, the non-aggression principle, don't steal. If you haven't heard that before, don't steal is considered by many as a sort of a catch-all for all sort of all natural law transgressions or transgressions of right, because everything is considered as a possession, including, for instance, your life, your well-being, etc. So any transgression is considered stealing, a theft. So don't steal is a very, very basic sort of way of looking at all of the wrongs that can be done. And then on the other side, we have don't kneel. So don't which is basically what we've talked so much about: sovereignty, anarchy, without ruler, above rule. Don't kneel to another. Don't submit your will to what anyone else is telling you. That's what being an adult is. So that's the lower realm that I've called it here, which is like the personal realm. And this is how I've conceptualized it. So it's in the realm of action, like day-to-day actions. But then I think there's also something that doesn't, that's in a way passive. That level can be kind of conceived of as passive because it's responsive, you know. It's responsive to the situation around you. But then if we ask ourselves, well, what am I actually here for? Or what can I do? What's the most I can do? Let's say, what's the most value I can create with my life? You know, what's my highest purpose? What's the highest purpose that there could possibly be? These kinds of things. You know, you start to reach out of this personal realm. You start to look at the whole world in the aggregate and start to take responsibility for that. That's when you're reaching into the holistic realm, the higher realm. And you've got this, the possibility of right understanding, which leads to the possibility of right action. So that requires the readiness to learn, and that leads to the readiness to teach. So this is where you're really going out beyond. This is, I would say, where speech becomes, sort of reveals itself as being the highest right action, the highest form of right action that there is, because it can influence the most people. It can have the most influence. So therefore, it can create the most value or the least of, you know, the most harm, actually. Not necessarily directly, but through, through manipulation, let's say, and deceit, deception. So yeah, I just thought I'd bring that in because yeah, I quite like that graph. I was quite pleased with how that came out, and it's right on the topic of this talk. So there's that. Thanks.
Going back to what Derek was saying about kids fighting at school, like I remember getting in a fight. I remember a kid jumping on me and fighting me, and me being drug off to the principal and punished in the same way I was punished. The other guy was punished, and I said, I didn't start it. He jumped on me, and the principal said, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's like, you fought. So I was just supposed to sit there and get my ass beat? But that's what the state brainwashes us to think. You know, don't protect your property because we're coming for it. You know, like, it's pretty crazy. But then we got punished, which our punishment is exacting revenge on us for doing misbehavior. And we were isolated from, you know, they put me in the back of the room or put you in timeout or whatever. Like, that's jail. You know, there's no difference. So, you know, it's wild what, you know, the things that we have to unbrainwash are, like, it go way back to school. Cause like a lot, like the first, whatever, 17 years of our life is pretty important. We learn a lot in that time. And we certainly don't get educated much in that time, but we do learn a lot. And a lot of that stuff is really, really bad. Statist thinking that the state is, and authority figures know what's right. Morality comes from the state. So whatever the state does is okay. And that's why, you know, people get in this mentality of you know, supporting wars and stuff, and like supporting wars because our party is the guy who's the guy doing the war, you know, and there's too many people not representing what they actually believe and just what their party believes. And that's why, like, again, too, Derek talking about veganism, like, as anarchist vegans, we're in a very awesome situation because most other vegans are libs. and we're able, like on my podcast, I've interview big vegan YouTubers, and they're almost always liberal. And I talk to them. I'm like, look, it's not good for the animals that most people think vegans are all libs, are all libtards. Like that's not good. That means our message isn't getting out there to most people. So like, because a lot of these guys on their show, they are very obviously stuck in the two-party paradigm still. And I'm like, look, bro, both parties support subsidies that go to the meat and dairy industry. Both parties support money going towards wars. There's no difference. And none of these guys, they all get it when I say that, because it's like, dude, there is no difference. And there's no president going up there saying that I'm going to stop subsidizing the meat and dairy industry, like none. And like there's people, there are people starving around the world, yet we have the food to feed all these cows at a deficit. You feed a cow billions of calories to get millions of calories worth of meat out of it. We lose so much to this tradition. And it's been really cool being able to have libs on and be like, dude, like the government fucking sucks. And as long as the government's around subsidizing meat and dairy, we're going to have loads of cheap meat and dairy. So everyone could just eat it nonstop all day, and they're just like, oh man, you're right. Because it's the two-party stuff is really, I think people are really waking up to it. Traditional media has been really dishonest. I think in the last 10 years we've woken up a lot as a species, but doing right is still something what a lot of people still, I have anarchist friends that still buy new cars all the time, and they got their tax slave jobs, and they don't understand what I'm saying when I'm like, dude, you gotta remove yourself away from this system. You can't just say you're an anarchist and do all the non-anarchist stuff. It's just not going to end well for anyone, and we're always going to be stuck because we've been brainwashed. And that's why forced shadow work is interesting. Like where you got forced shadow work is like your best friend telling you you're fucking up instead of blowing smoke up your ass. And like a lot of people, when you just have a bunch of people around you blowing smoke up your ass, you get complicit, and you just settle with doing mediocre work and not actually doing true activism and focusing more on, status and socializing and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a lot of work, and it's a daily habit that you got to do. And I think that's about it.
I was just going to show this. I don't know if this is a bit small. Can people kind of see this? I mean,
Yeah,
probably.
good. Yeah, no.
Cool. Yeah, so this is a great graph. Mark Pasio did this, and I actually saw a really simplified one, which was laid out a different way, but I can't find it now. But this was. It's funny because now this is so obvious to me, but if you've not seen this before, this is great. I thought I'll just drop this in while I'm doing more of a sort of. I've never actually really done slides and stuff before on the show, but this is the real political spectrum, and it says is a function of consciousness. So at the bottom, you've got the amount of external government based on coercion and control. And in the middle is 0. No external government based on coercion and control. And that represents true freedom. No imposed rulers. And then down here you have libertarianism. So this is going towards the fascist side. So this is the right-wing side. You have libertarianism, republic based on classical conservatism, then capitalism, then fascism. Okay, so you're getting more and more towards totalitarianism the further you go in that direction. So let's look at the other side. You've got libertarianism, republic based on classical liberalism, socialism, and then communism. So either way you go in that direction, you get to totalitarianism. And that's really the thing, is that people who vote, let's just be blunt, people who vote, people who support political parties, sorry to let you know, but you're a totalitarian. That's what that is. That is the inevitable direction. That's what you're giving your energy to, is this. You're going towards, depending on whichever flavor you like, you're going this way through through capitalism towards fascism, or you're going this way through socialism towards communism. And the only solution is no rulers, no rule, no submission to external authority. That is the solution, and that represents enlightenment. And that's really the middle point, as it's put here. It's the point where you resist this urge, which I suppose you could sum it up as this direction kind of looks like, we just want the trains to run on time, that kind of thing, and this way it just looks like it starts with like, we just want people to be looked after, we just want to have a nice healthcare system and that kind of thing. So if you're more, if you feel that you're, well, really another way of looking at it, this is the more nurturing side and this is the more protective side, and this is the more motherly side, this is the more fatherly side, so that's the way that political spectrum works. And you've got to get 100% out of it. You've got to forget it completely if you want to be enlightened, because it's bullshit. And that's that. So I hope I've convinced you. And that graph, actually, it's a little bit tricky to find that graph, but that is a good one. And yeah, definitely had a big impact on me, that one. Seeing it so clearly spelled out like that, I was like, oh, right, well, that's the end of that. Then I don't really need to think about that anymore. So hopefully my little talk through that has had a similar effect for you, maybe. I want to jump in.
Yeah, Dre, did you want to say something, or should I riff? Or well, now, yes. I swear I saw someone in the chats. How's it going, everyone?
I don't think they really.
Apologies again for the lateness and all that stuff. Yes, Jen, discovering balance is so beautiful. Where confusion ends, and it is that inside job. And I got that good old feather of Mayat, keeping your heart as light as feather, and that is kind of like a daily operation type of thing, as Jeffrey was talking about. And it's the inner work to make sure that your shit is kept in check and you're not projecting any of your unresolved bullshit out onto other people. And that could be not necessarily the best or right action per se in all these things. And I guess for people to like think about it in a different way, when you're going about your day, think about or ask yourself, am I damaging the energetic integrity of anything that I'm interacting with? It could be just a glass of water, and think about it, and think about a good old Dr. Emoto, and how water can contain the memory of frequency, energy, and all these things. And Nemo, like you were saying, and it is very important to yeah, understand the magic of our words, the good old abracadabra, right? Kind of like what I speak comes into creation in a sense. But a lot of people are still, if we were 12-strand DNA beings, that would be more of an immediate manifestation type of thing. But just as far as just, there's still like an energetic signature that goes out through our vocal cords whenever we're articulating anything and addressing it to whatever. And hey, we're talking to the ethers right now on the ethernet and all that stuff, right? So yeah, I like to think of this electromagnetic energy that we all have within us, and we can use that as that perpetuating life force energy that is that seat of the soul, the heart, and all this stuff. And when we are more in tune with that, we can kind of just have that compassion reserved for others in the way we go about our daily interactions with the world, right? Reality, even up in the matrix, all this stuff. And we have to understand that the universe is like a mirror, and in regards to cause and effect, the law of attraction, if you will. And so do we want to be pushing up against the matrix and all the NPCs up in there and whatever the fuck, right? Because we're gonna get kind of like a little cosmic bitch slap, if you will, when the universe is mirroring back your kind of shitty behavior and all that stuff. So that's something that I try to keep in mind as well, and trying to keep my heart as light as a feather, of just understanding that the universe sees all. We cannot hide from this. So it's best that we keep our shit in check and pause for respect. Look again, twice, thrice, and maybe some more. That will entice more of that good old introspection, right? So real quick, because if people were wondering, well, what's up with, were you guys going to be talking about movies and pop culture, and what's up with John Wick and Bruce Willis on the, what I mean? So and there is this notion that I've noticed, these anti-hero tropes where, and this is nothing new, right? But you can just see with certain movies how they're trying to make it like super cool, that and kind of glorifying the bad guy, right? Even think about Tony Montana, say goodnight to the bad guy, whatever. But and people look at that and like, whoa, wow, that's cool. You see the folks, with their guns and slow-mo and all that stuff, and like, all right, are they aligned to natural law moral principles? Like how much gratuitous death, violence, and gore was there that was totally unnecessary and all this stuff. But yeah, obviously that's a slippery slope to fall into these fictional stories and all that stuff. It's Hollywood, baby. Ugh, fuck that. But it's just, we gotta, for conscious parents out there, especially when these young subjective minds are looking at all this stuff, and like, we have to take in mind the monkey see, monkey do aspects of that, especially when they haven't really cultivated a proper understanding and understanding, or maybe even overstanding of objective morality and what their rights are, as well as the rights of everyone else, which is the right to live without any infringement upon your your own soul property, your bodily autonomy, if you will, right? So the more we know about these things, the more we can act in alignment with right action, even if it is causing harm to other people, just because we have to defend our own, because when it gets to these scenarios, unfortunately. But are we going to let these unconscious, ignorant fucks cause harm to us when we know better and should not let that happen to us? It's kind of like we should not tolerate evil. So being complicit and kind of inactive when evil is running amok, is that right action or inaction, if you will? So things to consider. So I'll pass it off to Dre.
Yeah, dude. Waking up really screws up Hollywood movies. When I was growing up, I saw the movie Tombstone like 7 times in the theater, right? It was like the whole life, my favorite movie. Then I, wake up, watch the movie again, and it's like, wait, this movie's about some psycho cops trying to disarm all the people in this city and then killing them, trying to disarm them. Like, why did I like this movie so much? This is awful. But they had such cool characters, and like you just fall for it. It's so ridiculous. But so our real true currency is time, attention, energy. So like what Drea was saying earlier, first, obviously, you got to come to the conclusion that you got to take care of yourself and how you think. But then you got to start helping other people. Like doing a podcast, I think about this a lot. You think, oh, we're like doing so much, but really like the internet's kind of just like a cesspool of people that are stuck in their own stuff. So it's like what you put out into the world, charitability wise, your efforts are getting like multiplied by 10-fold, like 100-fold compared to like posting something on Facebook, or doing a podcast. So like doing right is also, it's not doing anything, but then you're obviously, at least what it means to me to be a man, is like taking care of yourself and then taking care of the world, taking care of other people that need it, that aren't as in as good a position as you're in. And you'll see, like I said, your efforts are way better put in those directions. And our society just trains us to be individualistic and materialistic and just care about what we have and be selfish, and our opinions. And it takes a monumental amount of work. Like I go down Mark Passio's list of friends on Facebook, and it blows my mind when I see the people in there, because I know these people and I know how full of shit they are. And I know how they're not doing anything really. They just want to have Mark Passio in their friends list so they can look cool to all the other people on Facebook. Like it's mind boggling. Like, and Mark can't even add more people on there. There's 200 people on Mark's list on Facebook that just should not be in there. Like let new people in to understand. But it's just, there's such a big social thing going on. And it's not activism, and it's not great work. What you do in the real world is real activism and great work.
Okay, I feel like I've got some things I'd like to say. And we are naturally born with this incredible guidance system in our bodies called our emotions, and our feelings are our guidance system. If it feels good to you, carry on. If it feels bad to you, stop. And we've got this internal compass that says this feels good, this feels bad. Is it good? Is it bad? And it's like we've been blessed with a conscience, and I feel guided by my conscience. I feel guided by my conscience to be here. I feel guided by my conscience to do the one great work, the spreading of the word of natural law and the sharing of the knowledge of natural law. But I think, when we are in health, we are able to access our inspiration and our intuition. And when we act on our inspiration and intuition, inevitably that's right action. There's, we're talking about putting it outside and helping people. I think that, you know, the path to hell is paved with good intentions, hey? You know, you've got to go. People are, you know, help people who ask for help. It's not up to you, though, to judge, oh, that person needs my help. You know, I really do think that a lot of this natural law and right action is an inside job. Get yourself sorted, you know, deal with your shadow, because it's like, go back to that statement, be the change, you know, until we are whole people in ourselves, you know, we bring to the group can be taking and destabilizing to the group. I'm not saying don't interact with other people, you know, but I'm saying, you know, be really mindful that you have the energy to do that, that you want to do that, that you're doing that because that's something your heart and soul calls you to do, not because it's something you feel like, oh, I really should go and do that. Because if you enter something with that, oh, I really should go and do that, it's a bit like, really? You're not entering into it with what I would consider to be right action, you know, because if you're feeling a bit, I really should, I'm not feeling like I've done enough, or, you know, that's talking about playing into some psychology of unmetness somewhere within yourself, you know. So it's like, follow what you're called to do, you know. It's like, so for me at the moment, I'm feeling really like I want to really do a bit more than just signing petitions and paying attention to what's going on in Palestine at the moment. I actually am feeling a bit like I want to go and put a bit of myself on the line with it, you know, and actually put my body in a bit of a place with it, and actually some physical action around it, you know. And that's not coming from a place of should, that's coming from a real, you know, place like that. But, you know, I'm here doing this and sharing the information and just being the truth and being the love and turning up the best I can to be the best I can where I can, you know. And yeah, follow your inspiration and do what your heart calls you to do. That's it for this moment.
Yeah, I think it was actually Mark Passio had quite a big impact on me, talking about using your real name and just being who you are. Because when I first started writing, my first piece that I wrote it went sort of viral in a kind of smallish way, but for me it was huge. And it was written pseudonymously, and because I had this idea that on the internet, in this sort of weird public realm, this virtual realm, that I had to present something as a musician, as a singer, that was kind of like acceptable, you know. And then if I wanted to write something that was like less acceptable, to like that was somehow going to undermine like this kind of pristine image, then I would just do it under a different name. So I started off my blog under a different name, and it's mad, really, looking back. And that was only like 4 years ago. I mean, it was during like quite an interesting time in history when things felt very, you know, it's easy to forget how draconian, you know, things felt at that time, you know, in a lot of ways, and how scary. I mean, it was scary. I felt scared, and of course, there's still fear around voicing opinions or whatever. But yeah, it was really interesting. Like Mark forced that. Listening to Mark kind of forced that on me to think like, well, why? Like, what am I scared of, and what's important, you know? And so it's been really like liberating for me to go, no, it's me. This is what I'm saying. it's now like come through my songs as well. I'm just going like, whatever, I'm just going to say what I think, and that's that. And so that's been a big shift for me, out of sort of like wherever it was like trying to do right action, like on the side, out of the way, but then like to the rest of the world, I'm like, hey, no, I'm just a normal guy. Don't worry, don't get stressed out. I'm not going to like give you any, I'm not going to cause any problems. I'm not going to like stretch your worldview. Everything's perfectly safe, and then that's not reality, Yet the reality is, if we're going to talk about reality, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be challenging, because reality is not right, and it's sorry, that's not what I mean. The reality that we are creating for ourselves is not what it can be, and that's because of this delusion. That's because of these wrongful thoughts, conditioning, and like layers and layers and layers and layers of wrong actions, so like everything down to like, oh gosh, the most basic things about just living in a place, just living in a place. Hold on, I'm born, right? I can live. Can I live? No, I have to pay someone to live there. Like what? That's that doesn't really quite chime with what I call reality, with what I call right. So just to skim back through a couple of things that were mentioned, just about the thumbnail. I've had a really busy week. That was the quickest thumbnail I've ever done. I literally put I put like right action into Google.
Especially John Wick, because he was fighting for animals for his puppy.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I just anyway, it just came up as action. Like that was, sometimes you just put in a word and it just comes out, and you think, oh, okay, well, yeah, I suppose it's action movies. So yeah, that was that. But it is interesting. I mean, there's the funny thing about the I think there is like a video that really nails this, where it's a sort of like it's an anti-gun, it's a kind of Hollywood thing of like all of these actors doing their little anti-gun spiel thing, and then it cuts, each one of them talks, does their little thing, then it cuts to them in a film shooting a gun, looking cool.
I saw that.
It's like, oh wow, it's kind of so brilliantly like owning them. Yeah, but then to refer back to like what Derek was saying right at the beginning, there's this thing of like, there's this weird, and I've been suckered into it since 2016. Before, I guess it was when it kind of kicked off. There was this owning the libs thing, of like where people getting just like this weird this what, sorry?
Frenzy.
They're in a frenzy.
Yeah, it's like and the thing is, I still find it's like this weird, there's an addiction to it. There's this thing of like, and that's really unhealthy, and I see it myself. I still like listen to things. I have this kind of guilty pleasures of like, I listen to things where it's like this whole weird dialogue around between the right and the left, sort of in the internet. I mean, I don't pay attention to the news cycle particularly, except what filters through to these kind of like platforms where it's always the same thing, and I'm kind of listening to it, and a lot of it's just like they're funny presenters or whatever it is, but there is this ongoing kind of thing which is it's owning the libs. It's kind of like, but really in a way it's like the masculine mocking the feminine, or it's the unhealthy masculine mocking the unhealthy feminine. That's what it seems like. It's a
two-party paradigm. It's made for conflict.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the inversion of what needs to be happening, which is balance, like you were talking about earlier.
Right.
And it was funny, you were talking about Buddhism being so similar to natural law, or at least Marx's natural law, I've been on a bender of reading and studying the Bible, and it's all the same, like it's all the same stuff we're learning. It's just packaged a little bit differently. And like I've been listening to a bunch of sermons from Seventh-day Adventists who they follow the Sabbath on Saturday, which is the original Sabbath, and they're vegetarian. And their sermons, it's just natural law stuff. All, they're just talking about natural law, really. Like if you look at it, sure, there's these characters, but they're all teaching the same thing. And what I'm learning about the Bible is that it's a manual for teaching you how to not get screwed by psychopaths, really. But like people completely, if they don't have that mindset when they dive into it, they just see all these stories and everything gets muddled. But yeah, I think, there's so many similarities to natural law, or at least how Marx taught natural law. Like he must have seen this early on and kind of helped it. But another thing, get my notes up. Yeah, so okay, Buddhism, yeah. The two-party things, yeah, it's really bad. I wrote since you're asked what exactly agorism was, I wrote a bunch of stuff down just as like kind of idea. Things you can do to kind of promote agorism, or at least like ideas that I think help you become a better agorist or agora. Keeping a level head and having self-control is super important to, keeping the message going, and not, because, when we're mad, that's when we're at our worst. All our morals and stuff fly out the window, and we say things we don't mean and stuff like that. So that helps a lot. Avoiding two-party paradigm thinking, which Nemo, you were just talking about. It's really easy to just fall or watch videos of fights at protests between libs and conservatives and be like, haha, look at that lib get his ass beat, and just be like, why am I, like, you got to catch yourself. I was so caught up in politics until 2012 when Ron Paul was unseated from his position that he truly deserved and won in the preliminaries. I had to, after that, I was like, I am done with this shit. The two-party paradigm and the American political system is a reality TV show that's set up to distract us from the fact we have no choice whatsoever in any of this stuff, and voting's completely pointless. If they can just unseat the guy you voted in, there's no point to doing anything. So therefore, any thought two-party paradigm thinking, any of this stuff is a complete distraction and completely against natural law.
Yeah. Sorry, Jeffrey, can I just jump in?
Yeah.
It's just about because you just reminded me of what you're talking about the classroom experience, and I've referred to that because I think that's near universal, something like what you've described,
Mm-hmm.
of like just the blatant injustice and being shown, that the judge, the supposed figure of authority, does not care about truth. And so because we learned that,
I was so confused when I was a kid and then that happened. I was like, I don't get it.
Yeah. But then you integrate it. And so what you're really learning is apathy and nihilism. Really, that's what the actual lesson is, I would say, because it's like, that they don't care. But you go through this process. People, I would say, go through this process. Oh, we got to vote for the good guy. Oh, look, this guy, in England, Jeremy Corbyn. Oh, he's nice. He seems nice, or whatever. You got a nice guy and a nasty guy and all of that stuff. You kind of buy into it because it's like people don't know what else. But it is actually in there. It's like it's a built-in contradiction because of our experience, that childhood experience, that even though we're going through the motions, there's a kind of hopelessness to it, because it's like, but but it's always bullshit. Oh, they're all the same. All of these are cliches that a lot of people will say. They'll blatantly say it. Oh, they're all the same, and then they'll go and vote.
Yep.
You know. So sorry, yeah, I interrupted, but I just.
In France, you have 8 different choices for the election. How about that? All these
pretty
different flavors of degrees of slavery for you. Hey,
Yeah.
whatever.
And
You
it's
wanna
always
finish,
the
Patrick?
majority voter, which is the non-voter, always loses.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Drea.
Yeah, I went to the anarchist conference in the UK about 15 years ago, and had a really interesting guy. And this is off topic with right action, but he was one of the guys who was part of Margaret Thatcher's team of privatising the UK's rail and water and all of that kind of thing. And he'd sort of seen the error of his ways. And we did hold a little. Could we form an anarchist party who you could actually vote for, who the sole purpose of voting for the anarchist party was to disassemble government because of how entrenched and everything it is. It was an interesting philosophical conversation, but I think that brings me back to right action, and right action is not to acquiesce to their demands. However, it does need all of us to do it, and it's like, so there's something in the UK called the poll tax, and there are a number of people who are just refusing to pay it, as did at the beginning, but you get taken to court, you get fined, and with the threat of social credit, fear and coercion, and it's very difficult. It's like, that's why we just got to keep doing this. We just got to keep talking and talking and talking and acting and sharing the information until we get enough agreement around everybody. I guess we just have to actually stand up and go, we no longer acquiesce to your demands, because that is right action. As Henry Thoreau wrote, the first person I actually heard say, it's the people who do as they're told that have caused all the trouble, the ones who
Thoreau's
follow
a badass.
orders. And I remember sitting in my kitchen about 20 years ago reading Walden or whichever Thoreau book it was, and just, oh my God, that is so absolutely the truth. So right action is stop doing what you're told, stop acquiescing to the demands of the fucking state, because they're a bunch of nutters.
Right. Choose your action. Right action is chosen action. Carefully chosen action.
Thoreau's a badass.
Yeah, and like I said, led by your heart and your informed knowledge. So right action is continuing learning. Make sure you know what the truth is and act on the truth.
Yeah. Civil Disobedience and Walden are 2 books you should read by Henry David Thoreau. Very, very, very important books about materialism in the government.
Yeah.
Cool.
So other thoughts on how to be more of an agora. Stop smoking and drinking alcohol. This goes back to last week's subject of self-respect. Also eating better.
Or grow your own tobacco or brew your own booze. So how's that?
Sure.
Stop taking government drugs.
Exactly.
Make your own. Okay.
Clearly the state wants us, not, they want us, the state and the powers that be who own the hospitals and all that stuff. They want us sick. They make a lot more money off us being sick. We lose freedom when we, disrespect ourselves by eating bad food and abusing our body with things. So yeah, moderation. Work under the table. This is a really, 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 really big one. Obviously, we pay a lot in income tax, especially in the States. And I'm sure in the UK it's pretty bad too. So obviously that's a lot of material support, your allowing and a lot of your your, again, going back to your energy and all that stuff, your real true value are these things that is that effort that you can put into the world. So working under the table is a really big one. And obviously getting rid of materialism and the idea that things will make you happy and a new car will make you happy. This is a mental disease that's going on in the world. Start a support group within your community. All the blue zones, all the centenarians that live the longest, they all have several things in common. They mostly eat a plant-based diet, but they also have a very close support group around them that, where everyone, if someone's down, the rest of the group can pick them up. And, it's basically less stress. The state is a massive stress. The government puts a massive amount of stress on us. They have us basically living in desperation all the time, in order to get as much tax dollars from us as possible. So, working under the table and having a close support group, and making that support group as big as possible. Record the police at all times. Record all government and police at all times, especially when it's other people that are involved with the police. You don't just do it when it's you. Stand up for other people's rights, obviously. Get better at public speaking. That's basically like a work on your presentation. Always be working on your presentation, because looking professional looks really good. There's no way around it. Looking so if you end up like I've been lucky enough to get responses from a lot of big YouTubers, and they're far more professional at what they do than I have. So I have to look at myself and I'm like, shit, I'm not going to make, myself or what I represent look bad because of XYZ that I do on my show, or how I present myself in one way. So always working on presenting yourself is always, it's shadow work basically. Let's see what else. Do charity. We already talked about that. Keep using your used car. Holy crap. A used car is a money printing machine. There is really, I can't think of a single reason in the world why people need to buy new cars every several years, and they do. It fuels, every time you buy a new car, you're creating a new taxable entity that will create revenue for the death machine for probably 15, 20, 30 years. People don't understand that it's basically like having another kid that's going to be taxed its entire life. People don't, so many libertarians I know are just buying new cars all the time. And I'm like, bro, like that's not helping things. So yeah, it's not helping the world, and it doesn't help you because they cost a lot of money. It's one of the worst investments you could ever make in your life. Drive less, ride bikes more. Every gallon of gas you get gives $1 to the feds and $1 to your state to do bad shit with. So just, so many people love to just aimlessly drive their giant truck around with their V10, it's just insane. It's psychopathic waste. We need to get out of that idea. Help others to learn about and do agorism. I talk to people about agorism all the time. After being a musician, I worked on vintage motorcycles for a long time, and I would talk to my customers all day about this stuff, and everyone was open to it. Everyone thought it was so cool. And next time I'd see them, they'd tell me about how, whatever, or I tell them about cryptocurrency. Not that it's the end all, but it's a lot better than having a currency connected to the government. And just talking to people about what you're into, you'd be surprised. While everyone is in the two-party paradigm, still, our anarchist libertarian rhetoric sounds really good because it's true. It's the truth. And so when you tell it to people in the right way, it clicks in their heads. It may not click right in front of them. It may take a couple years. They'll wake up in the middle of the night and be all, shit, or they'll have something that happens to them and they'll be like, dude was right, you know. And so talking to other people is really, really good. And I think that's about it. I just threw those down just while someone was talking, just as kind of it's just a constant, you know. You don't have to be perfect at it. No one gets to be peak agorist, you know, like there is a state, we're always dealing with it. There's no way of completely isolating yourself, you know. That's not that's imbalance. Isolating yourself is imbalance. There has to be a balance to it. You know, it's not just you know, you can't just go to these extremes and go live out in the desert and think that you're saving the world by not engaging. You have to engage in the world around you and do great work. But that's about it.
Cheers. So it's yeah, I mean, we're getting about ready to wrap up, I think.
Yep.
Cool.
I was going to say, I just was going to just refer back quickly to something that someone said. I think it was you, Jeffrey, about films being spoilt by, you know, that thing is just, that is really interesting, that to see the same thing with new eyes, you know. And what the thing that I started to notice again and again and again, once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it, is the amount of fictional creations in which everyone is a sociopath. Every single person in the story is a sociopath, you know. And I'd just be like, who am I rooting for here in this story, you know? And you know, I mean, an example is well, in fact, I mean, a lot of sitcoms fall into that, I would say.
Crazy childish behavior. It's the
Yeah.
wild. It's like,
Childish,
what do the powers
selfish.
be? Yeah. How what kind of a person do they want me to be watching this stuff? You know, why are they brainwashing us to be bad people?
But even going back into fiction, you know, like novels, you know, classic novels and stuff. What was the one I read? It was anyway. It was Nabokov story. I think that's actually when I first noticed it. I was reading this Nabokov. It was not a particularly well-known.
Was it Lolita? Is that him?
No, it wasn't a well-known one. But and I was reading it, and I just started to think, it started to feel really horrible. And I was like, there was two characters in it, and I realized that they were both horrible. And I just thought, well, why am I reading this? There's no other character. No, you know, there's barely any characters in it, and they're just both horrible. And all they want is just to screw the other person over, and that's a great novel or something. I was like, what? Oh, this isn't really giving me very much. And then I started to notice it in fiction, you know, in films and everything. And yeah, it's quite a big one. So it's showing you, you know, I mean, or let's say like Goodfellas, you know, like things like that. I mean, talk about glorifying like psychopathy, you know. And I saw
any of these shoot 'em up movies, it's like humans aren't capable of killing that many people that quickly. Like we have a brain. They make it seem like in like the war movies and stuff, everyone's just but that's not how it happens in the real world. People are screaming and crying and laying on the ground in the fetal position, and like you can't, like there's something called PITS, perpetrator induced traumatic syndrome. It's what people get that work in factory farms. It's you can't do that kind of shit without it affecting you in some way. And in movies, everyone's just all and like everyone's cool, high-fiving each other.
Right, and that's that's the character that you're to identify with, you know.
And if you watch that shit your whole fucking life, and you're always rooting for those guys.
We're not even supposed to be naturally witnessing that many deaths.
No, we aren't. Yeah.
And what games are kids playing? You know, these shoot 'em up games. I mean, that's just like off the charts. You know,
to make soldiers to stick up for the state, tax-paying soldiers. They need more of them.
Yeah. So lots of ways out of right action, but
Yeah, I got a couple points I want to
Yes, go for it.
round up. Yeah, like in conclusion, and it ties into kind of what you were talking about, kind of like getting at as well, in a sense of, yeah, there's like all these programs coming at us from all different types of the whole media miasma machinery with all their machinations, right? Is it Machiavellian for you enough? Or do you prefer the Merovingian? All right, stop being cute. So yeah, there's, as Nima, you were saying, there's like so many different layers to this, and like programs on top of programs on all this shit, so we really have to extract all this stuff and deprogram all these things to really get our mind right, because our actions are not going to be properly right if we don't get that first and fucking foremost, especially in regards to cosmic law. The first principle is mentalism, right? So it's all about our state of mind first and foremost. And so, yeah, our thoughts and emotions need to be in alignment for proper action. And yeah, like the emotion, energy in motion, right? You can take that and run with it, literally, right? So yeah, and with yeah, Drea, what you were talking about of I forget the yeah, as far as like people getting a little bit too much into their feels. Sometimes, a lot, well, not sometimes, a lot of people don't have their intuition properly aligned or activated on that, compass wheel, if you will, in regards to like moral relativity and like objective morality. Holy shit. And I'm thinking about, again, like with the masculine, feminine, like the archetypes of consciousness as well, or just mental gender, with the intel being the left hemisphere of the masculine, and the gents for the intel gents to have that unity consciousness, right? So yeah, like the right hemisphere being the feminine, like it's all right to have your emotional compass, especially when it's in alignment, to act like that radar of like, oh, like, what am I feeling right now? Like, am I feeling right about what I'm thinking or what is happening to me, or what am I doing to other people, or what am I saying to other people, right? And so to keep that in check, we need the balance of the intellect, right? To have that proper intelligence, right? So yeah, it all goes back to that good old balance, heart light as a feather. And in conclusion, right? Because yeah, you cannot avoid having your heart weighed at the scales of Ma'at at the end of this life. So is it going to be as light as her feather? This actually weighs a lot. It's metal, but put it this way: way up on one end of the scale, every single itty bitty little, and the big ones, the whole shebang, right? All your right actions and all your wrong actions. How is that going to level out? Something to think about. So yeah, here in this now, we got time to pay off your karmic debt or whatever the heck, So yeah, just keep that as part of your dharma in regards to the karma, and yeah, just keep it aligned to the divine, and hopefully or surely things should be fine.
Nice one, Derek, on the rhyme all the time. Looking fly. What can I say? So, at the end of the day, at the end of this show, what is right action? It's on a very simple level. Do no harm to any other sentient being, and do what your heart is guided to do, and you do you, and keep your nose out of other people's business unless they've asked you to, and work on yourself. Get that introspection going on and saying, what is this action I'm taking caused by? Is this action I'm taking being caused by a sense of insecurity that I need to make myself feel bigger and betterer? Or is it, you've got to deal with those gaps in yourself, because you're not going to be able to take full right action if you don't. So it's keep on keeping on, keep on working, keep on showing up the best you can and being the best person you can be, with love in your heart and respect for those around you, that we're all on the journey together.
Oh yeah, just real quick, I got to riff on that because yeah, one of the things that we've all had wrongdoings done onto us, but we cannot just go out there and project that onto others. That's not right action, and that's along the lines of doing the shadow work, healing the trauma, and just reconciling all these things and alchemizing it.
Great. Any last thoughts, Jeffrey?
No, I'm good.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. It's been a good show, I think. If anyone would like to join us on the Telegram group, it will be, or actually, I won't say that because it's not there quite. It's not in the description at this point, but you can find it if you go to ENL tap link. I'm going to say, will that work? People kind of search ENL Europa Natural Law tap link. Hopefully that will get you there. Anyway, or just it's in one of the descriptions on one of the videos. Telegram chat. That's basically where the show originated, was through that chat. It's not been huge. It's been a little bit active this week, but it comes and goes. But there are some pretty great debates going on there, and I'm going to say that I've just had a look at the upcoming topics list, and what I've got there is expressions of natural law, which is kind of a specific slide of Mark Passio's that's really I find it quite hard. It's a pretty detailed one. I reckon we could do a whole show on that. So that's my suggestion for next week, but it might change, but that's my idea at the moment, is to go for that.
It's really a cool deep dive. Yeah. Thanks everyone for watching. By the way, Crafty Nihilist, I see y'all. Alicia,
yes.
Jen.
Thanks for all those in the comments. I haven't been showing all comments, but
if everyone could follow my channel on YouTube /Jeffrey Phillips, JEFFREY Phillips. I'm starting my own network also, if anyone's interested. The Eighth Principle Network, and I'm going to be promoting other people's work like crazy.
Nice.
So if anyone is interested in that, they can hit me up. And also, if you guys want, like I said before, I have a pro StreamYard set up. I'm pretty good at this stuff. I could totally host the show, at least like do all the background work, and you can use my StreamYard, which has a lot more features. It just seems like Nemo, you're stressing yourself out quite a bit in the beginning of every show trying to get this stuff to work, and I'm pretty good at it. So maybe we could talk about it later, but I'm definitely willing.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Today was a bit of an exception because I had this gig and I mistimed it. That's basically what happened today. So it's usually not quite that bad. But yes, but thank you. Let's chat about that.
Should I have probably managed it better?
No, it was me. I just didn't notice the timing happening. Anyway, just to refer back to the thoughts. What Derek was talking about, thoughts, feelings, and actions aligning. That's the key. That's such a huge key, I think. This is something I've only learned recently. Thoughts, feelings, and actions. You've got to align them. That's how you get to right action. If you that's such a great reference point to keep coming back to. It can offer so much, such a simple, way of looking at it. And another way of looking at thoughts, feelings, and actions is head, heart, and hands. And that just happens to be one of the songs on my new EP. Hey, that was pretty.
I heard your new stuff. It's good, man.
That was another. Thanks, and what is your new EP, Nemo?
It's called. It's called "You Can Be an Anarchist." It's called "You Can Be an Anarchist Too," and you can find it at nemojones.com.
Is there anywhere else you can find it?
Bandcamp.
And what's it called again?
Oh, come on. You Can Be an Anarchist Too. Okay, guys. Thanks a lot. Thanks to everyone. And let me do this bit. Clickety click.
Ciao.
And here we go. See you next time, guys. Cheers.